Infrastructure in Nigeria, despite the trillions of naira earmarked for capital projects, at least since democracy started. I'll say that we do know that the Nigerian landscape is littered with abandoned projects, 12 trillion naira worth. Perhaps it will even be more. Now, that came in from our CIPM, Chartered Institute of Project Management, in 2017. 56,000 projects abandoned around the country. The state of infrastructure is my discussion today. Hamzat Lawal is the Chief Executive Officer at Connected Development, CODE, as well as Micheal Oluwagbemi, the Chief Executive Officer at WENNOVATION. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining me. Hamzat, good to see you.
Thanks for having me. It's
Long
a pleasure
time no
being
see.
here. Yeah.
Micheal, good to also have you on the show today.
It's nice to be back.
I think we should get started because we have a lot to talk about. I know we can't finish this in one show, but I hope to continue in other editions of the program. I did say earlier on that the landscape is littered with projects. We saw that in 2018 budget, President Buhari, when he signed the budget, did say that thousands of projects were taken off, 6,000 were inserted in. We do know that what we have right now, the constituency projects, though a lot of people have also argued if there's a legality to that and all of that. Hamzat, let me come to you. What do you think? Because I know that your body goes around the country tracking that is following the money.
Yes, following the money. Yes.
Talk to me about some of your findings.
Well, thank you again, Nancy. When we travel to rural communities and when we go with our budget information at hand, what we find on the ground is mostly disheartening. First, community members are not even aware or informed that there's a budget provision for them. Second, when you go to the project site, you don't even see bricks, not to talk of cement or laborers. And then when you try to put this side by side and also get more budget information from government to say what is happening, how much have been released, for instance, for capital expenditure, you reach out to the Minister of Finance. But then there's that secrecy. No one gives you that information or tells you, oh, this is the process, or this is where we are. Are we in the contracting stage?
Even with the freedom of information.
Oh, presently a lot of government MDAs are disrespecting the freedom of information law and not even respecting the rule of law as it is. And you know Nigeria is a signatory to the Open Government Partnership. But then when you look at how have we actually implemented this policy and regulatory framework, we have nothing to write home about. But going back to capital expenditure and what you see on the ground, and as listeners out there, we need to also understand that we have local government budget, state government budget, and national budget. Most times citizens only focus on national budget. Yeah. But then I'll tell you a story about a community in Gombe State called Jesu. Jesu community, and just to put this into perspective, from Abuja to Gombe, capital, is 7 hours by road. From the capital to Jesu is 3.5 hours and the road is not good. But then when we go to Jesu, because we were able to lay our hands on the Gombe State government budget, there was a 9.5 million naira for a community called Jesu. We got there for their primary healthcare center to rehabilitate and equip their primary healthcare center. We got there, we found out that one, the community was not aware. So when we were touring the primary healthcare center, we found out that one, it's in a dilapidated state. And again, you see the interesting part is some of my colleagues are builders. And of course, you have friends and families that are builders. And when you see 9.5 million to rehabilitate, even the structure on ground is not worth 5 million. But we know with 9.5 million, you can have a new structure, you can equip that structure and have facility and have vaccines and syringe. In this PHC, there's no nurse, there's no bed attendant, there's no doctor, there's no Panadol in this PHC, and there's a 9.5 million. The community was not aware.
That's in Gombe State.
That's in Gombe. The community was not aware, they were not informed. But when we informed them and they became aware, and that's why we're excited about community action. When you give them information, they mobilized themselves and went to the capital to meet with the director of SDGs, which the budget was under his ministry, and say, we have a 9.5 million. When are you releasing this money? And then they say it's in contracting stage. Can you give us information? Have you published? Because again, by law, you're supposed to publish.
Yes.
Have you published? Let's have a copy of this publication. It was nowhere to be found. And up to today, and this is 2017 capital expenditure for Gombe State. And as we go on, I would share findings in the Niger Delta region, which is much more disheartening, knowing that Nigeria's resources come from the Niger Delta region.
You know, it's so sad. And let me tell my crew, those pictures, we try to bring those pictures together. So it's not as if we're alleging or we're saying something that's not true, or we want to paint a government in a bad light, or, do you understand? Just giving facts to what we're saying right now. So we can actually show those pictures on the screen. Michael, you've heard what Hamzat has said. What are your own views?
I've seen it. It's beyond hearing. In fact, I'm a practicing engineer, and so I'm always on the road, and I'm always curious when I see large infrastructure projects to see the state of this infrastructure. Be it the massive dams that we built, over 210 of them, the massive investments in refineries, jetties, 5,800 kilometers of pipelines under the NNPC that is today abandoned, over 28 depots that are not working. We have over 250,000 hectares of land astride in our irrigation dams that could be utilized for agriculture that is not being utilized. So we are, it's not about hearing about it, it's something I've seen severally. I visited the Itakpe Iron Hall. I almost came to tears. You have a massive dam, you have a massive power station. It used to be lit like a city. It used to employ over 10,000 people. Today it's a ghost town. Only one security officer met me at the gate. And I could easily stroll in. There were about 40 containers of power containers that were awarded. A power project for beneficiation that was awarded under Oluwagbemi Obasanjo, and the containers are there abandoned. Over 100 of them, not even 30, over 100 of them in containers and abandoned there. I could easily go there, pay that security official, and go away, make away with the container, easily. When I gave him 200 naira, he was very happy to let me see the entire facility. That is to tell you the state in which, in fact, Nigeria is almost like an abandoned project itself. That's the honest truth. And it's not about one government. It's about this thing as started under General Gowon. And I want people to understand history. Again, we're a country that had a president that once said, money is not the problem, what to do with the money is the problem. So as a result, they went on these wild goose chase, investment in facilities and infrastructure that made no sense. When they should have invested in human capacity, our universities were abandoned, our healthcare system were abandoned, and they started sinking money into these massive projects that made no sense, no economic sense in the first place. Nigeria invested in Alaja. Everybody wants to talk about this, still about Ajaokuta today. The reality is that the economic foundations of Ajaokuta made no economic sense. You're over there, you're putting an iron ore mining complex almost 80, 90 kilometers away from the actual place where it's going to be smelted. And then after it's smelted, it now has to be transported even further down to Alaja, Warri, Oshogbo, for it to be rolled. And again, the iron ore itself was not high grade enough. You needed to import high quality iron ore from Guinea, where we went to go and buy. We actually, in Nigeria, bought and invested in mines all across Guinea. Today, people don't know that. In order to bring them into the country. So again, the point
Today
is...
we are thinking, Tartan, of building a refinery with Niger Republic.
Well, you see, every project will have to go through its own feasibility studies, right? The problem is, my own understanding from history and from looking at these projects is that from 1970 or thereabouts, after the Civil War, Nigeria was more interested in awarding contracts than utilizing projects. And again, I want to say this, every capital project is not an infrastructure. So there's always that mistake, we look at the capital project in the budget. Oh, no, a lot of them are for buying vehicles. A lot of them are for just improving the office of the NDA. So I don't even equate the capital expenditure today, which is a little above 2 trillion naira. I can easily tell you that maybe only 1 trillion is actually for infrastructure. Yet, we're a country that has $100 billion deficit every year. And our entire budget is $15 billion. So it is not enough to just say, oh, let's continue to invest. We need to go back. What have we invested in? How can we bring them back? We have massive social infrastructure. Again, I will take your time a little bit. There are two types of infrastructure, the physical and the social. The social, you have security, you have education, and you have health. Education, health, you and I know the story. Security, we're still struggling. Our universities, a lot of them, I went to University of Lagos, I know how many, the condition of that school when I was there. And I know it's not even any better today. So we've failed to invest in our social infrastructure, and as a result, our physical infrastructure will suffer. Why? If you do not equip people in order to be able to maintain and service and operate, then they cannot handle physical infrastructure. What we did was we put the horse before the cart. We need the cart before the horse. We need to make sure that we invest in our people so that they have the capacity to operate and to maintain our facilities. To be honest, a lot of people have tried. I was in a couple of dams the other time, and you could see that despite the dilapidated infrastructure, the local community has taken responsibility to protect these assets. But they don't know how to operate the assets. So you have pumps that have not been used for 30 years. You have in Doma Dam, 30 years, 1988, Ibrahim Babangida went there to commission a 2,000-hectare facility without power. And so therefore they had to set up a quick fix diesel generator in order to power 250-acre irrigation. Big dam. What happened? Immediately after the commissioning, till today, that dam has never seen one day of operation.
Even with the so much money is, accounted, I know we will not finish this edition today, because if we're talking about the state of infrastructure in Nigeria, it will be like a week-long, 2 weeks, or even a month's show continuously, because we need to look at the various geopolitical zones, how much have been earmarked to each infrastructure, the level they are right now. And both of you have said a lot of things that are quite germane in terms of even the conceptualization of those projects. Now, where do we go from here? Because like I reeled out the data that I reeled out, and that was even as of 2017 last year. We've not gotten an update yet in terms of 56,000 abandoned projects in the country. Where we have the highest so far is in the southeast. You were talking earlier on about what were your findings in the Niger Delta. And somehow I'm also disturbed in the sense that when I see these pictures, or when I see abandoned projects, even I also travel, when I see some of these projects around the country, it saddens me a lot in terms of you come to a school, a supposed school, and people are sitting on the ground. There are no roofs there, or sitting under the mango tree.
We had Edo States.
And I'm wondering that these states have governors, and they will come out and be saying what exactly on television. Is it that they don't know that those things are happening in their areas?
Well, they do know, they're aware, and it's about social audits. Let me go back to and quote what my colleague have said, that Nigeria is an abandoned project. And I'll tell you why I said so. Because in Nigeria today, we have councillors and chairmen, but they're in diaspora. When you go to these communities, and
they're in diaspora, like they're in their state capitals.
Ruling, because they're not leading, they're ruling in diaspora.
Diaspora, they're not in their areas.
In Abuja or in their state capital, or in Lagos or Port Harcourt, doing business. And these are people that have been elected. In Edo State, when we visit Ogbomoye, a primary school that was budgeted under NDDC capital expenditure in 2017, this school have no infrastructure. When it's raining, it rains on the students. And today we talk about over 10 million out-of-school children, and yet you're not investing in education, and you say the future of Nigeria belongs to these young people. What future are we talking about when we're not investing in education? Today we're even advocating and saying the Universal Basic Education Act, let us increase it from 9 compulsory years to 12 compulsory years. But today we have lawmakers at the National Assembly that does not see the importance of investing in education, which is really quite sad. But then let's also go to another community in Imo State, in Owerri particularly. This community has a budget, again, under NDDC, which is Niger Delta Development Commission. We met a woman. She's 32 years old. When she was heavily pregnant, they were trying to rush her to the nearby hospital because the primary healthcare center in her community is covered with grass. Maybe you can see the screen and you see the pictures covered with grass. And when we look at the budget line, there was over 20 million naira for this primary healthcare center. On the road, inside a wheelbarrow, this woman gave birth by the roadside. It took the community women to bring their wrapper to cover her up and clean up the baby. Oh yes, we witnessed it firsthand. This woman delivered her baby on the ground. So it tells you that there's that inequality and that divide where we don't even have dignity for human life. And then talking about social audit. Today, what we have that is a framework to audit government expenditure was enacted in 1966. It's a law that is stale. But today we have a legislation in the National Assembly that talks about having a framework. But then this has not been passed and harmonized and sent for presidential assent. The 2016 audited report stipulated that over 300 million naira could not be accounted for by an MDA under Ministry of Health. by 5 people. So 5 people cannot account for over 300 million naira that was budgeted in 2016 for 2016 audit. So imagine if we have institutions and individuals that are stronger than institutions. This is what would happen, because most times when you go to institution, it is controlled by individuals, not the framework of an institution. You have an entity. Our entity runs even without us being in it. But when you go to government MDs, it is centered around an individual. And if we continue like that, it means that 1, funds that are released will not be accounted for. 2, contract information would be inflated. And 3, you would not see deliverables on the ground.
Now, let's come to this, because I don't want us to be torn, because some people may also see the program now, or what we're discussing. Oh, you're tongue-lashing the government. Oh, it's a PDP station. Because I've heard, in fact, someone just sent it to me on Twitter, PDP TV, what else do you expect? But should we not go beyond that? Because like I said, this program is just about facts, as it were. I can't say 1 + 1 is not 2.
So let me help you.
Now, what I want to ask is, are we saying that it's just about this government?
No,
and I will also come to the fact that this government has also taken in its strides to complete abandoned projects, at least at the federal level.
Exactly.
Some states too.
Yes.
So is it really about which government is in power or which party is in power? Just like you said earlier on, historically.
Historically, it's about the country. So Nancy, let me help you. It's not about PDP and APC. In fact, I'm a card carrying.
We're getting a lot of that these days.
I'm a card carrying member of APC. So I'm
helping really? So I didn't know that.
Let me help you.
Micheal, you just surprised me now.
Yes, we all have to join political parties. Oh, okay. We all should. Because you cannot affect the people that go, if you go on the ballot day to go and vote, and you do not join the political party, you are left with bad choices. So you need to join a political party. So I don't care which party you join one. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, let's clear that the air. It's not about APC, it's not about PDP. It's about the country. And we need to all come together and fix a problem. The president is doing the right thing. I have to say that. He's completing infrastructure. And we, as a people, I think a lot of the problem, we have to all recognize among ourselves that sometimes we, the people, are the problem. We have a certain mindset about starting a new project. In fact, some people have gone ahead and said, oh, GEJ started it, and said, oh, it's not President Buhari. And the president is taking it in his stride, and he should ignore them. He should focus. In fact, it is a crime. I personally think for the next 10 years, it should be a crime that any MDA should start a new project, period. We have enough abandoned projects, we have enough underutilized projects that no MDA should include a new project in the budget. It should be an embargo. The first thing we as a country should do is to first dimension the existing abandoned projects. We do not have information. Some of these projects can be taken over by the private sector. So what we need to do is to first catalog all these 56,000 that you're talking about. Then we now have what we call underutilized projects. All the refineries are underutilized. They are not among the 56,000. The 210 dams are underutilized.
These are abandoned.
Exactly. 5,800 kilometers of pipeline, which because of that, we're having trailers bust up in flames on the street and killing people that are under the PPNC, in the NNPC, that are today mostly abandoned. They are not among these 56,000. So we need to now catalog all these projects, and we need to showcase them to investors. We need to showcase them to the private sector.
So you're coming to infrastructure financing.
There needs to be some infrastructure financing because, look, the federal government's budget is $15 billion. And I just told you we have an $100 billion deficit. How are you going to cover the deficit, if not from the private sector?
And that's yearly.
It's yearly. Yeah. So every year, you're $100 billion behind. Every year, you're $100 billion. And what is infrastructure? Infrastructure is something that you and I cannot afford. That we can. It's best that we combine effort. That's why I call it infrastructure. It's combined structure. Something that is more efficient that we build together. If you build a road to your house, I build a road to my house separate that you cannot use. And if she builds the road and he builds the road, it makes no sense. So what we do is we create one road and then you can have your house off that road. He can have his house off that road. That's why we call it infrastructure. The same thing for healthcare. The same thing for basic primary education. Primary health care is an infrastructure. We need to make sure the children that we give birth to live up to the age of adolescence so that they can be productive to the country. We need to make sure that the children we give birth to get basic education. That's why we invest in basic education. We need to make sure that the security of the lives and property are guaranteed. That's why it's an infrastructure. The same thing when you talk about physical infrastructure, wet it, water, energy, telecommunication, transportation, and industrial infrastructure. We need to invest in these things together, not separately. However, governments have a role to play. They need to regulate, they need to step in, but we the people, I have to say it, we need to get involved. How will you have a councillor that is not around and you will tolerate it?
And at the end, if you tolerate a councillor that is not around, will you blame Buhari? Everything is Buhari?
Everything about federal government. The government of Nigeria today, I always tell people, half of your money is being spent at state level. Forget all that local government. Nigeria has only 2 levels of government, federal and state. When it goes to local government, it's all state government that controls
They don't have autonomy.
No,
so
they don't. They don't.
Yeah.
So we only have 2 levels of government, and rightly so. It's a federal union. I tell people, I have no bones about it. Nigeria is a federal union. It should be between the federal and state government. Every state should determine the local government system they want to determine. That's just my own philosophy. I'll put it aside. However, the point is, 52% are spent, or 52 to 53% are spent at the federal level. 47 goes to state. So half of the money.
That's both the local and the state now.
Half of the money goes to your state government. Your state governor is responsible. Look at Akwa Ibom. They built an 100 billion naira airport maintenance facility. They built an airport just 30 minutes away from Calabar Airport. Underutilized airport MRO facility that is one of the best in the world is there. It was catalogued in Premium Times about a week ago. Why will Akwa Ibom invest in that when Akwa Ibom does not even have primary schools? The biggest state in Nigeria today that produce domestic servants, and I can say it anywhere, is Akwa Ibom State.
They
Yet
may
you have so much
disagree
money.
with you now that it's decreasing.
No, but the point is you didn't invest in education. Go and look at all their schools. They even cataloged a school last week in Akwa Ibom, abandoned campus.
Oh, okay, let's see if we can take some comments coming through. Wemi Motaiwo says, but some people are criticizing this government for completing projects abandoned by the previous government. What do you think? We'll come to that in a bit. In terms of President Buhari has taken up some abandoned projects and he's completing them. Dele Jack Solomon says, Nigeria's infrastructure is in a deplorable state and a huge infrastructure deficit has constrained economic growth and development due to corruption, bad governance, vandalism, poor maintenance culture, thus inhibiting her ability to improve the quality of lives of its citizenry. Can we take another? Okay, let me just give you time to respond.
See, Nigeria's foundation is built on corruption. We need to accept that and join hands together to fix it. Everything was built on that corruption and lies and pretense. Today, we don't have data, we don't have statistics, and when we quote data, we're quoting from international institutions that have gathered data on our behalf. See, President Muhammadu Buhari is a Nigerian president. Yes, he won election under the APC platform, but he's not an APC president. And when I hear people say that, he's completing projects or he's trying, why did we elect him into office? Is it not for better service delivery and to show leadership and move Nigeria into greater heights? People who speak like this, you don't understand the difference between politics and governance. You do not bring politics into governance.
Yes.
The day you bring politics into governance, that's when you start going backward.
Exactly.
We need continuity. We need to ensure that we sustain the momentum. Well, it's quite exciting that he's completing projects, but we need to see more investment. We need to see more private sector-driven investment. See, a lot of people have confidence in private sector. Government cannot drive everything. I tell people, government cannot create jobs. Government can create an enabling environment. And once that is done, we would have investment, direct foreign investment, local investment. And mind you, when we talk about states also generate revenue.
Oh, yes.
Have we asked them how do they utilize those revenue, both at local and state level? I'm more concerned about local and state level because in Abuja here, most of us are elite. But what happened at the state level? And let's not lie to ourselves. We get text message every now and then with account number. So if we don't address this issue, Sunday, all the people in the villages will come to Abuja. And then Abuja, there'll be nowhere to go in Abuja and probably nothing else to eat rather than eating ourselves.
That's a scary one.
All right. We still have just a few minutes to the end of the show. Send your comments. Keep them coming through. Let's see if we can address some of them. What are the solutions, right? Of course, you've been even talking about the solutions in your responses solutions and all of that. Do you think that it's an emergency situation right now in terms of infrastructure? Because it will take us, I think, about 30 trillion naira to complete infrastructure from now to the next, at least from 2015 or thereabout to the next 30 years.
Yes.
Sustained, though, a
sustained
investment.
Yes, investment.
So, I think the first thing we need to do is we need to have data. And that's why the work that they are doing, track it, open government data, project is very important. We need to have an unbiased data. We need to have data about the location of these projects, the status of these projects, and the business case for the projects. Where the projects are purely for social value, then we need to know and we need to prioritize them in our budget.
Now that brings me to the question of the issue of constituency projects, because you follow the money tracker on one hand to also have called out some of these lawmakers publicly. They've written to them. They've even published those letters. We've seen it on even social media. They will call out some senators. We know that you were giving so amount of money. We went to that place. Nothing is done.
Yes.
What should we do? And these are the same lawmakers that Nigerians voted into power to help improve their lives. And they will come back another 4 years to say, please vote for us. If the executive, so to speak, is fighting, allegedly fighting the legislators will call on the same people that are impoverished. Please fight for us, fight for this democracy. But these are the same people that do not have schools to go to,
constituency projects that
give birth on the road. What exactly is happening?
So, as a country, one, we need to first understand that without the National Assembly, we're not running a democracy. And the role of our legislators are to make laws.
Yes.
They're not meant to have budget allocation or even control any budget that has to do with capital or constituency projects.
So they are not businessmen in the parliament?
They should not be. I mean, and we should stop putting pressure on them.
Yes.
We have 2 senators, and one of them who died recently in March. I know how much, the people that know him, you know how many calls he gets in a day, the pressure he gets. The man was subjected to, he was basically killed by his constituents. We need to stop doing this. I mean, we're doing this to ourselves. I mean, people need to know it's a mindset.
But the other
Let's
thing
call
also,
it what it is, stomach infrastructure.
Oh, yes.
That is the problem.
We're doing this to
Stomach
ourselves.
but do you also blame the people? Because at the end of the day, the person will not have money for school fees for his or her child. And we're like, okay, I know this lawmaker, the lawmaker can help me.
But you see, they are
all of that.
But then again, if we have invested in education and ensure that education is free, not just 9 years,
So
but
who
for
is to
12
blame
years.
in that instance?
Well, I think
We have to blame ourselves.
Everybody.
Because
Look,
we're a reflection of
we are
our
reaping,
government.
we are reaping, I always tell people, we are reaping what was sown 30, 40 years ago. Unfortunately, when I see Nigerians fighting themselves, I laugh. Because that's what they call it, nation building. Whenever you sow something in year 2010, you don't reap it in 2010. You reap it in 2040. So any of the bad decisions that we are suffering today were sown 30, 40 years ago. That's why sometimes I look at the ex-generals that come together and want to criticize. No, you guys were the one that destroyed this country. You created a country where education is scarce for the common man. All of you went to nice schools. You went to free education. You had, yes, I know there's this something trading by Dr. Abba, fried chicken and this thing. Yeah, all of you went to schools with vouchers, University of Ibadan, Uniben, nice schools. And
I
then,
didn't go to that kind of school.
Oh yeah, but you now dumped the bad schools on the children of the 90s.
Our generation does
Yeah,
not
we were
know
the one
what
that
good
suffered
governance is.
it.
And that's why we're pushing for young people to take over public offices and run for office and not just run but win. Hopefully women and young people will vote for more young people, because we cannot continue like
but
this.
But the gains will not be immediate. I like to
definitely,
be realistic.
it's sustained over time investment.
Exactly, you will get that
long
gain
term.
30 years time.
Because Nigeria, we always look at short term, quick
What can I
wins.
get
No,
now?
right now, there's
Give
nothing
it to
like
me,
we
let
don't
me
need
spend
quick
it,
fix, quick
eat and
win.
die now.
No, we need to do long-term investment.
long-term.
So in the next 40 to 50 years, we can then start competing with the global economy.
Oh, yes.
Now, both of you, if I have your consensus, is that the lawmakers should not be businessmen in parliament.
They should not.
No constituency project.
No,
They
we
should
should
never.
not.
I
They should
guess
focus on.
If they are listening to you now, they will want to cut off your heads.
No, look, they
And
have the constitutional role of appropriation.
Yes.
However, they do not have the constitutional role of determining and executing contracts.
And besides, they're meant to do oversight. So if you determine
They are-
contract for
they
how
are
would you
compromised.
oversight
They are
yourself?
compromised. That's a
How would you
conflict of
over-
interest.
Obviously, certainly. So you have, when your role is to do policy and laws and also oversight government spending, and then you're now the one determining who gets
gets the
what,
contract.
when, and how.
It's conflict of interest.
Now, very, very quickly, in just 20 seconds, each of you, we've seen capital expenditure. Of course, you said there's a difference, you know, in terms of infrastructure and capital. The Minister of Finance said some months ago that about over 1.5 trillion naira has been released so far for capital expenditure.
Without
some
breakdown.
ministries, yes, some ministries in this Abuja have told me that third quarter 2017, cash has not been released to them. So all the contractors are on hold.
They have, let me tell you, we have a budget. In fact, that should be another.
So where
that should be
There's
another
a budget
show.
deficit.
Yes,
We should do
that should
another
be another
show.
show for that.
We have a big problem in Nigeria. Sorry, quickly, with procurement. The public procurement law that we adopted, unfortunately, was meant for World Bank. It was not meant for Nigeria.
I think we'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Hamzat, you just want to say something in 10
For me,
seconds?
let's keep following the money. Let's ask the right question that is informed by data, and let's always go back to the ground. The fact that we're in Abuja and we're in all the big cities, let's go back to our communities and amplify their voices and take information to them, because they don't have access to some of these facilities that we enjoy.
Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. Someone just asked on Twitter, ask your guest about Abuja CCTV camera project. That's another show for another day.
$100 million down the drain.
We'll talk about that some other time. Many thanks for coming on the program and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you for having us.
All right, I've been speaking with Hamzat Lawal, the Chief Executive Officer at Connected Development Code, as well as Micheal Oluwagbemi, the CEO at WENNOVATION. We've been speaking about the state of infrastructure in Nigeria. Like I said earlier, it's not just a one-episode show. We will continue in days to come. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see.